The next thing that we need to define here is our event.entity. So we're going to make an event.entity.ts. And this is going to be the heart of our conversion here. So I've got this. Now over here, let's go to our actual project here, to the API server. So over here we have this Sequelize model, is what they call them in Sequelize land. That's the equivalent of our Typeorm entity. So I'm just going to start by copy pasting this and then start transforming it. So the first thing that needs to change is this is going to be an @entity. Now we will still need to change the name, similar to what we were doing over in our original model. And that's just because of the fact that, again, I created this all kind of before we were using any of these layers, and they have assumptions about what the name should be. They think your table name should be named singularly, whereas mine was plural. Someday I could do a migration to clean some of this up, but this is a good kind of example of what happens in real world kind of legacy applications when you're doing some of these changes. So the next thing we can do is get rid of this. We don't need that. And so all these API properties can go away. These are actually not related to the database entities at all. This is because I was overloading my DTOs, my data transfer objects for the API with my database entities. It's not a great practice, but this is fairly small application that we do in our spare time, so only so much time in the day, but highly recommend creating separate definitions for your data transfer objects that you expose over your API and what you use for your database models. So we'll just quickly go through, we'll delete all those. And this is going to change, but that's worth noticing. We'll go ahead and delete it for now, because we're going to have to do something similar for these array columns. And let's not worry about defining our relationships for now. Let's keep this really simple. That's something that we will have to bring back in at some point. Now, let's go ahead and delete this for now. Let's not worry about that. We'll come back to that. Now, column is a Typeorm, defined in Typeorm as well, but it is a function. So we just need to go through and make sure that we invoke that for all of these. Okay. Now, what do we do with our ID? This has a special convention in Typeorm 2. Let me see if I can remember it. Let's just go ahead and copy it over, because I don't remember off the top of my head what that was. Primary generated column, and we're going to specify that it's a UUID. Now then, I said we needed to do something special with these columns down here with the arrays. Let's just search for anything where there's these array of type strings. Okay, so similar to what we had to do in Sequelize, we're going to have to tell it how to handle these in Typeorm. Basically, we just need to tell it that it is to treat it as text and that it is in fact an array. So we need to do that for any of these things that are arrays, and I think there's a handful in here, not too many. Okay, now one more thing we should do here. By convention, in Typeorm, we do not call these models, we just call them by the singular thing that the entity is, so this just simply becomes event. There's no reason you couldn't call it event model, that's just not conventional. One thing to watch out for with this, because of this name being so generic, event, is that when you import it into other files, make sure that you're actually importing it, because otherwise you might find that the IDE and the compiler will be perfectly happy with it, but you'll get strange runtime errors, and that's because event is a thing that is already generally defined. So there's some name collision going on there. Event really isn't a great name because it has so much chances of colliding with things, but we are a service that provides information about local art and cultural events, so it made sense at the time that we name it, but be careful with that.